Today we are interviewing Christopher Michael Day. He was born on September 28, 1979, and served in the war in Afghanistan as a senior airman for the Air Force. Today's date is November 29th, 2015, and we're in Davis, California. My name is Sawyer Norton, and assisting me on this interview is Emma Ford, Ella Silverstein, Daniel Alvarez, Kate Sangster, and Seth Harrington. This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress. Now we'll begin. Where were you born?
I was born in Independence, Missouri. I was a baby born out there, and I don't have any memories of being out there. My dad was kind of a nomad at the time, and so I just know that's where I was born. My birth certificate says. Then he moved back out here after his kind of traveling ways and reconnected with his parents, my grandma and grandpa. And then kind of, that's why I live in California now.
Where would you say you were raised?
Bay Area, San Jose, Milpitas area. Then, right on the borderline, Milpitas, San Jose, Landis Avenue. It's kind of hard to say exactly because I moved around a lot. My dad was a truck driver. He hauled tile for his Monarch company. And so I've lived in over 20 different homes.
Do you have any family members who have served in the military?
Yeah. My dad served. He was Army. My grandfather served. He was Army. My great-grandfather, and so on up the line. At one point in time, it was traced all the way back to World War I. Typically, the firstborn son of the day, not line, serves in the military. Which is funny because my dad did not want me to serve. He hated it. He served directly under my grandfather. My grandfather was a senior master sergeant. And then my dad served under him. And my dad was kind of a screw-up in the Army and got in trouble all the time. So my grandfather had to discipline him constantly in his unit. And so it was a lot of extra pressure on my dad. And my dad was an MP, so it was kind of like the guy who was supposed to uphold the rules. But my dad had a hard time following the rules, so my grandfather had to always discipline him in his unit. And my dad didn't see it, though, but my grandfather would put his career on the line to make sure my dad got honorably discharged, even though my dad didn't deserve. He went AWOL. Actually, one day before he was supposed to be discharged, he thought he'd stick it to the man and just leave and just walk away. And so they were going to charge him with going AWOL and court-martial him. But my grandfather, he retired and said, my last favor I'm asking as a retire then is to pardon my son. And so that way my dad got an honorable discharge instead of a dishonorable.
Wow. Did you have a job before you enlisted?
Before I enlisted, I was kind of homeless. I was just living from place to place on friends' couches, my friend Peter, my friend Karen and her family. I was working at the time, it was Marie Callender's. I was a server there. And I hated that job. Gosh, I hated that job. And they didn't like me either. I had long hair. I was a rocker back then and everything. And, I had my ear pierced, and they kept making me put a Band-Aid on it because they were really sticklers for men should look like men and not look like women and everything. That was my manager. I'm like, it's just an earring. I don't know. They would actually check your socks to make sure you're in the right socks and everything. You had to wear Argyle socks, and they had this whole. The manager wanted to be. This is Marie Callender's. Everybody else, can give similar food. We want to give you a dining experience. We want our servers to look a certain way. Which is kind of funny. And then I went in the military, which is even more strict. So I don't know what that says.
How did your family react to you enlisting?
Well, that's interesting. I wasn't really living with my family at the time. My blood family asked me to leave when I was 16 years old. It was a very tough, abusive situation. My dad and my stepmom, they had been together for 8 years, and they let it be known that I'm from the old family, and they wanted to start their family, so I was in the way. So they made it known that it'd be best if I left. So when I was a sophomore in high school, they asked if I would leave. So they didn't know I even joined the military. But my adopted family, they took me in. They knew that I was living on the streets, and I was working at Togo's at the time, and I was still going to church and everything. I was like, well, it's great. I love church, and Togo's gives me food, and then I would just go sleep at the park when I was done. And then after doing that for a while, one of the families from the church noticed that I was homeless, and so they took me in. And they actually helped me. They helped me to get, pick the Air Force because, Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force. I really wasn't sure. But, my God family was like, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I really want to be a firefighter. And so the Air Force was the one branch that said, okay, we can guarantee that what you go into, you will get. And it's a program called the Delayed Entry Program, which means that you will not go in until a guaranteed spot opens up in your career field, which for me, the AFSC code, Air Force Specialty Code, was a 3E731. And that's an entry-level fireman.
Did the terrorist attack on 9/11 affect your everyday life?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, I went in the military because I had nothing. I was just bumming around. My God family took me in, and both of their daughters, went to college and started to make something for their life. And they're like, "Well, Chris, what are you going to do?" I've been there for about 2 years now. I'm like, I really have no idea. And after I realized I wanted to be a firefighter, but I had no money. I wasn't going to ask them for any money for school or anything because they'd already done so much for me. And so a friend of mine had told me about, the Air Force. And in Milpitas, it's not a military town. There's no pro-military or anti-military sentiment. It's just, wow, I didn't know there was a military I could join. I'm sure it was in the back of my head. But I found out that they give you, a home, somewhere to live. Training, they give you training, a job, you get food, you get paid. And at this time, I'm just really like, a high school just graduate bum. I don't have really anything going on for myself. So I thought, yeah, I'll join the Air Force. And then I served, and in the first year, it was pretty good. It was a 9-to-5 job as a firefighter, working 24-hour shifts. It's a day on, day off, and a Kelly day, which is like you get 3 days off every other week. And I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. And then September 11th happens. And I remember I was out at Outman. There's 4 stations at Travis Air Force Base, and the Outman stations were like the cush jobs because you're in the runway. All the hustle and bustle at the headquarters, get affected by it. So I'm waking up. It's a normal day. Out at Station 4, I get my cereal. I'm going to watch the news like I do in the morning. And right when I watch the news, I see the second plane hit. And I think Tim Brokaw or something I was reporting, I'm like, this is crazy. What is going on? And then what really hit me particularly, the Pentagon. Most people don't remember or talk about it much. Everybody talks about the Twin Towers, but the Pentagon got hit. And as the military person, that's kind of like our headquarters. The Pentagon, that's our military brain operation. And so when I saw that getting hit, and I was like, oh my gosh, we are seriously under attack. And back in the day, before everybody had smartphones, we had our pagers. And so they paged us, and it's like, come back to base right now. Everybody get in here. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So I start driving. I'm on base, and I'm going towards, our headquarters, Station 1. And there's MPs everywhere. They start putting, the big concrete blocks they put on the side of the freeway? Yeah. Well, what we do is called a serpentine maneuver, where you station them so they're like this, so that way you have to drive in between. So if anybody wants to drive a bomb in, they can't do it. They have to kind of go in between, and you can shoot them before they get to you. Yeah. So they had serpentines all over. On the top of a Hummer, at the time, there are these big metal plates, and there's some with the M60. It's a very large version of an M16. It will splatter you instantly. And so that's pointed at everybody coming in the base. Right as everybody's parked up, that guy's sitting there 24/7 with the gun, just, waiting for somebody to, try to cruise through. And I got to base, to my headquarters and everything, and now we have a lair. No one's allowed to park within like 100 feet of any building. And I'm like, all right, this is crazy. So overnight, it went from a nice job to I'm in the military, like for real military. And it never stopped from that point on, and especially in my base, because we're a mobility base, which means we have to transfer constantly to deployments. Like if you're going to South America, overseas, we call it the sandbox, so anywhere over in those lovely places that's dominated by sand and Arabic Muslim nations that don't like us. That's where I was constantly going. So yeah, it turned from a nice job to the military in one morning.
So how was adapting to military life?
Well, the first adaptation to military life is basic training. You go, and I went in December 16th, so, holiday time, everybody's, cheery, merriment, and everything, and you get off the bus, and they're like, shut the hell up, get in line, we will break you. And I had a very abusive stepmother, so I was like, well, it's not that bad for me. My stepmother's way worse than this guy yelling at me and everything. Nothing they did was personal, but it was always difficult. And it was in the Air Force. You have to imagine how the Marines and Army, Navy, and Air Force handled basic training is very different. So where the Marines, Army out there, they're like, all right, do push-ups until your elbows break. You know, everything, just go. And they're just pushing them physically. For us, it was a mental game. So when you adapt, like right now, after this, we can all go home. We can jump on the PlayStation 4. We can hit Netflix and everything. And we can, hit Facebook and talk to people or just read a book or whatever. Well, there, 24/7, you have somebody pretty much grilling you, ready to yell at you, waiting for you to do something wrong. And they'll give you a task. Like, see this shirt? I want it to be in a 6-inch by 6-inch square, and I want to have no wrinkles. You have 1 hour. And you don't have an iron, so that you have to come up with creative solutions. So we had it was probably 60 plus guys in our bay when we were in basic training. And so there's always somebody who would come up with a solution. And it was a teamwork thing. So for that, it'd be like one guy's like, well, hey, we have our canteens. What if we put really, really hot water in it, and then we can press it? And then one guy, then the next task, okay, you finish that task. Make sure all your pants are full in 12-inch by 12-inch squares. Wow, we don't have rulers. So what do you do? So one guy figured out that the binders were 12 inches. So we would fold it over the binder to make sure it's perfect. And I go, check. So it was a constant game of stress and always being like, okay, you have to toe the line. You have to make sure that you're following everything at all times. And it didn't always go well. One of the few times I lost my cool was in basic training, because you're there for as many months as you are, and it's a constant high-stress situation. And Airman Bland, I remember he flew out with me. He came up behind me while I was shining my boots one day. And by the way, I had never shined boots before in my life. Like, oh, go shine your boots. Thankfully, one guy there knew how to shine boots, so he told us all how to shine boots. So I'm sitting there, oh my gosh, how do you do shine? It's all black and everywhere. And Airman Bland comes up, and he thought it'd be cool to get me in a headlock from behind for some silly reason. And I'm like, well, mind you, everybody is as stressed out as possible. So I threw him against the locker, threw him against the other locker, and threw him down the bay. And then I sat there, it was just, I look back on it now because I think, but the rule is, don't touch anybody. You can do anything you want, but nobody can touch you. So if somebody touches you, it's like, oh, I've got a golden ticket. You can do whatever you want and throw the guy and go crazy. But that's the first adaptation is basic training. And they're yelling at you and going crazy, and you march, and you learn how to turn right. You can turn right now. I'm like, oh, that's actually not how you turn. You're supposed to sit up, pivot one thing, go exactly 45 degrees for a turn, or an about face to go for a 180. Perfect way to do it perfectly. And that's the whole name of the game. It's like attention to detail. Because when they find out later, if you miss one bolt on an airplane, if you're an airplane mechanic, there goes $1 billion and a couple lives. Attention to detail is everything. You're on a life safety job. If you don't know the minute detail, people will die. So that's what they grilled us for. I got grilled because I folded my socks upside down. Didn't know socks could be upside down. I thought it was just folded. No, the heel actually makes a little bump. Everything's oh, 3 demerits right there. There's 3 pairs of socks gone. And I'm like, socks can be upside down. Did not know that. Okay, attention to detail. The second stage of adjusting was tech school. After basic training, if you make it through basic training, which most people do, you go to tech school, and that's where you learn your job. And so as a specialty code AFSC 3771, I went to Goodfellow Air Force Base in Texas. And I started in Texas anyhow. By the way, I have no love lost for Texas because I only saw the worst parts of Texas, and I got screamed at the whole time when I was there. And people were like, oh, there's some really good parts of Texas. I'm like, gosh. All I saw was people yelling at me in trees this tall. I swear I could see Texas. The place was so flat. So in tech school, it's many months long, and it's pretty funny. On the first day you go there and they kind of give you a walk around. You're marching around like you're still in basic training, but they've been there for a while. And then at 4 o'clock or whatever time it is, the end of the working day, you're released. And so me and my friend Huffmeyer, we were sitting there marching around learning the place. And the guy talking to us, oh, okay, 4 o'clock, the music comes off and says the end of the workday. So, okay, you're free. And so me and Huffmeyer stood there because we're still waiting for an order, to go. And we're like, what do we do? And the guy walks away and comes back and says, no, you're free. You can go out. There's BX right there. If you want to go shopping, you want to go back to your dorm or whatever. And it was so bizarre. Because for the last, month and a half, it was we didn't go to the bathroom unless somebody gave us permission to. And we were scared to do it. everything. We didn't put a thing in the trash can. We didn't walk a certain way. We didn't look a certain way. We did everything as a lot of people say robots, but no, we were easily trained. Everything like, okay, we were given an order, we follow that order. So on the first day of tech school, when they released us, we're like, what, really? Can I do that? I'm like, yeah. So tech school was where you start your transition out of basic, and then in tech school, the next stage of understanding military life. And that's the interactions on a level where it's less stress. You got to learn your job. You got to be mentally competent and physically competent. You're running PT. You're going to school all day. Your classes are typically at least 8 hours, Monday through Friday. And then you study when you get back and everything, and you're studying on the weekends. And specifically if you have like a hard course, like we went to our hazmat and everything, that section is really important because anthrax happened not terribly long after that, the whole anthrax scares. And so you have to know, all of your elements of your tech school. And so you're training all the time. So they understand that. And then you finally graduate from that and you go to your duty base. My duty location was Travis Air Force Base. And you get there and it's like you're almost civilian again. Now, keep in mind, this is Air Force. A lot of Marines will look at this and just like shake their head and be like, oh my gosh, the chair force, are you serious? They had it way more tough than I did. I mean, for example, in tech school, oh my gosh, it's raining. We're getting a bus to get to the school. And we're driving our bus to school. Man, it is pouring out there. And we look out the window, there's all the Marines running and everything. And they're just like soaked as if they just jumped in the pool. We're like, man, this sucks. They look at us like, ha, 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 you wussy. And I'm like, oh, I'm dry. Like, yeah, like, all right, yeah, cool, you're tough and everything. But like, I'm going to have class today in dry socks. So enjoy that. But no, the Marines are great. They're just, more hardcore than we were. So when we get to our duty location, it's a lot more freedom. You learn your job a little more because now you're on, like, as a firefighter, I go there day one. I'm expected to jump on a truck. I'm going to know my operations. I'm going to know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to know my chain of command. I know my captains. I know the chief. I know all the NCOs, the non-commissioned officers above me. I'm just enlisted. I was a E2 by that time as an airman first class, and so everybody above me in rank understand whatever orders they give me, I follow it. And then you're a firefighter. That's what I was. I was a firefighter. So my daily life wasn't so much in the first year, like military. But yeah, I'm saluting officers and everything. I'm saluting the flag, following all the basic rules and regulations that I'm supposed to, that I signed an oath to do. But then it got real. And then September 11th happened. And then all rules are off. Everything, like all this stuff where it was relaxed and nice and easy. It was just the 9 to 5 job, of the military. Well, now it's all military. Now it's very serious. And then the final understanding of military life is when I got shipped out. I had done a tour before that in South America where I was pushing back Colombian drug lords. So the drug lords were coming up into Ecuador from Colombia, and so we were staying in Monte City, and I was staying plain clothes so that way we didn't stick out. But our job was to support all the American and Ecuadorian aircraft that were doing sorties down there to push back Colombian drug lords. So we were there as support, but we couldn't be seen as military because oh, hey, that guy's a military guy. Hey, we're a drug lord. Hey, he's gone. So we had to stay as plain clothes as possible. But it was a nice TDY. It was great. I deployed down there, had a good time, did some good stuff, helped out their nation. It was great. But then when actual war broke out, and when I say actual war, there's also a caveat to that. So it's not actually declared a war. It was an operation. So Operation Enduring Freedom is the one I was served under, OEF. As a serviceman, I think that's kind of shady that they don't call it a war, even though that, our troops are dying over there. Where they're away from their families, they're getting shot at and shooting other people. I understand it's not a nation we're against, and we're fighting an ideology, and I don't know how to fight an ideology. All I understand is that you can push it back, and you can stop it from coming close to you. And maybe that's the goal. And maybe they can't declare a war. But I do know for a lot of veterans, the term war means a lot for them. Like if you come back and you want any kind of benefits, they say, oh, well, you never served in war. You were only in an operation. Like, well, the airmen, Marines, and soldiers and sailors beside me were blown away. What do you call it? And so I think that's a shame that whatever that administration, the Bush administration to this administration, hasn't declared it an official war, even though I was in, a forward operations base. It was, there were people, going through horrible stuff where I was at. Thankfully, my unit wasn't. The term for the firefighters is in the rear with the gear, and I was very thankful for that because I was supporting everybody. If somebody's getting hurt, we're providing medical services. A crew comes in with hot breaks on a plane. We make sure they're safe, make sure they're fueled correctly, and then we head out. But a lot of people weren't as lucky as me. So while I was over there, you get to learn that true military life. So, which is really interesting. When you serve CONUS, which is Continental U.S., it can be very stressful because they're just constantly drilling and training you, and you know your job, and every day you're going at it. And yeah, your sergeant's yelling, "Hey, you piece of crap, hurry up! Hey, dirtbag, get that fan over here, get that hose over here." That's how it is. But they can't do that to you if you're in a wartime scenario, as I learned. They could, but it's not wise. Because if you're that stressed out, and every day we had put on our chemical gear, our mucklucks, our level A, hazmat suits and everything, because they could drop chemical bombs on us at any time. One of the things that I was told was we were at an area that Saddam had dropped chemical weapons on. So we were well within the range of that forward location to drop chemical weapons on us. So we had, like, on our hip, you always have this canister, and you have your gas mask and everything, and they time you. You have drills every once in a while. You have 60 seconds to put it all on. Otherwise, methyl bad stuff is going to hit you, and you're going to have bloody explosive diarrhea and everything, which means you're going to blow out everything inside of you, all your organs, lungs, and everything like that, and you're dead. As soon as you can smell it, you're dead. So you have 60 seconds. They find out it's coming. You have to strap on, get everything done. And as a firefighter, I also have my firefighter gear. So you had to combine stuff together and everything. It was really tough. So they could be on you like they are back in continental U.S., but you snap. You go crazy because every day you're thinking, this could be the day that a bomb drops on me. We have around our hidden base, we had concrete bunkers and everything, because oftentimes people will be outside, mortars. Okay, mortars coming in, everybody run to the bunkers, and then when the MPs up in the crow's nest would snipe at them and everything. Sometimes they hit them, I don't know, but I know they at least scare them away. But you hear and then the first few ones is usually them targeting to try to get onto your base and everything. So you have a little bit of time to get out there, and usually MPs will shoot them out. They never actually got us. Thankfully, the MPs were on the job, and they'd go out and take pictures and try and find out where they're at. But it sucked. It sucked real bad at war, but at the same time, it was understandable. Sergeant Leseski was my direct NCO, Tech Sergeant Leseski, James Leseski, and he was real cool. He understood it. Hey, he's not going to put any more stress on us than we have to. Do the job, get the job done, come back. Whatever our training is for the day, get it done, come back. Where back home, for 24 hours, you're on call. You're working the whole day, and at nighttime, you might do some night drills. Overseas, no. Get the job done, coming back, we're going to relax, get ready. Everything. We're always in a state of readiness. Everything. So we got some downtime. So you work out a lot, you sleep a lot, and you work out a lot more, and you sleep a lot more, and you eat a lot. And then you train, and then you get back. So it was kind of nuts. But at the time, I hated it, and I was miserable. And I was there for 6 months, and it was just rock, white bleached rock. No grass, no animals. This little island of Bahrain near the water, surrounded with razor wire, so nobody can come up. You can't go in the water. It's toxic anyhow. And at the time, you're just miserable, and you're trying to make it happy. My first rotation there was a commander, and he was a cool commander. USO, are you familiar with USO? Okay. USO is a great agency. They support the troops a lot, and they send in really big bands and stuff like that. It could be anybody. Right now it could be, heck, they might send Katy Perry out there. She's probably done a couple of them, and they'll have a big concert. For us, we got Three Doors Down, which is kind of cool at the time. They came out, and they were really patriotic and appreciative of what we did, and they played a concert, and the commander had them come out and raised the beer limit, because there's a beer limit out there. You can only have so much beer. And I didn't drink at the time, so I was like, whatever. But everybody's really happy and having beer, so I'm cool with it. And he was all about, getting the mission but making everybody happy. And then the second tour I was there, a general came in and he was trying to get his second star. And he just made it straight hard. like, there will be no alcohol at this place. There will be no more USO shows. We are in a state of, of direct attack or anything. There will be no morale boosting anything. We are simply here for the mission. So, morale and crushed. So that was tough. But I look back on it, I'm like, I'm glad I did it. I never want to do it again. So yeah, those are kind of the stages of learning military. Basic to tech school, to your duty location, and then if you get shipped out to war.
When you were serving, how often did you get to talk to your adoptive family?
It's kind of funny. There's a funny story to that too. You can talk to them at your duty location whenever you want. You just call them up. Don't do it all the time because it'll look weird, but like every night you can call your family. In basic training, you're not allowed to talk to anyone at all, except for your patio break, which is like, I think it was one time in an entire boot camp. People might hate me for saying this one though. So they're very serious about, in basic training, about you make sure your credit cards and everything's paid off at the time. And this is before smartphones and all that. So you can call up and like make payments and everything. The reason why they're serious about this is because if you say you're in debt, you owe a bunch of money, you have all these credit cards racked up, well, it's really easy for an enemy of the country, someone from their country who's at war with us, to say, hey, we understand you owe a bunch of money, you have some information we want. Say if we kick you down $500,000, you pay off everything, have some money, and just let us know a little bit of this information. And that makes you susceptible to the enemy. So the military is very serious about you not being in debt and handling your finances. So I told an untruth in basic training and said that, yes, I have to make payments on my credit cards. Can I please go down to the phone and make payments with the phone? And I'd go in there, close the door, and be like, oh, I'm here on basic training. I would call, like, this is horrible. Everyone's yelling at me. And I get to talk to, like my God family, my adopted family, and talk with them. And I broke the rules a little bit. And yeah, I did and everything. But so there, not much. In tech school, a lot more. And then from then on, as long as you're back in America, you can talk to your family whenever you want. When I was at war, hardly ever. That would be a communications problem because we had a comm unit, and we're on this place. It's a hidden base, is Shakisha Air Base, and I'm pretty certain I won't get killed for saying that. When I left the military, my first shirt told me that if you divulge information from this mission and this location, because it's a top secret location, you could be tried and executed by what you know. And the stuff that I did there and the stuff that I was told to do and my job and the lives that were on the line behind me that we were supporting, that many, many servicemen could die if somebody just understood what I was doing there. So they said, yeah, you could be executed. But that was a long time ago. So I don't even know if they're still at that base. So I just know, I'll just say it was Shakisha. Our comm unit, I don't know what their job is, but I just know that our comm was always down. And the only times I wanted to call home and be like, hey, I'm here, I'm still alive, and comm would be down for like a week. And I just remember those times. I'm like, got my little phone card, and you're punching all those international numbers, and like, phones are down, computers are down. I'm like, but not much.
Do you have any fond memories of wartime?
Fond memories of wartime. I have a lot of fond memories. I'm trying to think how many were in wartime. Airman Brandon O'Neill. Brandon O'Neill was a really cool guy, and we became workout partners, and we kind of made each other pass the time really well. I never kept touch with him after that, and I do regret that. I tried, I think, 1 or 2 times afterwards to try to locate him. Never find him. But working out with Brandon, laughing at Brandon, he didn't take it all that seriously, and I appreciated that. Everybody could be really dour. Him and I would just crack jokes constantly, just always joking about everything. We got yelled at once because we were in the gym, and we were just laughing and like laughing and lifting, which is really not advised. And people were like, "We're trying to take this seriously. What are you doing laughing? I can't get a good lift out here." Like, which don't do that. That didn't help. Brandon O'Neill, he was a cool guy. I think the best memories were the people. The near crashes That was something. At the time, it wasn't a fun memory. I look back, I'm like, oh, it was pretty hilarious. A water tanker. It's a very large truck with like several thousand gallons of water, and I was the operator of it, and so I was training one of the new guys that coming in. And I was like, hey, let's go take it for a spin. Wherever around this island where people want to kill us. But we'll keep it pretty close to the base. And so we go this one road. Ever see the big giant pipes and everything? They're like, concrete pipes and everything. Well, there's a little bridge goes over, and it's under with a giant pipe, probably like 6 feet tall or something like that, maybe taller. And we start driving over it. Apparently not built for a completely loaded water truck. And we drive over it, and I hear as it's crunching. I'm looking there at the guy I'm training. He's driving, and I'm sitting there listening out the window. I'm like, yeah, we cannot come back this way. We are not coming back over this bridge. So we go in, we do some driving and stuff like that, and we come back, and that apparently is the only way in or out of that area is over that bridge. So I'm like, son of a bee. All right, how are we going to do this? So I get out of the truck because I'm gonna teach them how to get over it. Mostly I'm like, I do not want to crash in this thing. You're going to drive it because you're training. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, go really slow. And I'm outside, I'm like guiding him and everything to make sure I'm like center as possible. Don't lean off one side. I'm thinking like, should I drain everything? But I can't drain everything because I'm like, if I could drain all the water, make us lighter, we won't break. But that makes us not ready. So if it's empty and say a plane crashes, we don't have that water supply. And then so they have to shut us down and shut our unit down and shut the airway down. Say, okay, we cannot support any runway operations. So I'm like, it is now all on my shoulders. I'm like, okay, if we just get this thing over this bridge, we'll never tell anybody again, ever. So we got over. I'm sitting there watching them, and little bits of rock are shooting out of the thing, and a bit of concrete and little dust and everything. And I'm like, please, I'm praying, like, please. See the tires slowly rolling, and he barely makes it across. It doesn't collapse or anything, but I'm looking back, I see all the stress cracks and everything. I'm like, okay, mental note, we were never doing this again. That was pretty fun. That was a funny memory. For the most part, you just work. There's no days off. We work 24-hour shifts. You're on for 24 hours, and you have 24 hours off for 6 months. Constantly through. You find ways to make the time pass. You work out, played a lot of PlayStation, ate a lot of food, barbecued. The fire department was in charge of barbecue. So I think it was like once every 2 or 3 weeks they get a shipment in of meat. It was okay meat. Better than the MREs, let me tell you. So we would go out there as the fire department because it's kind of like the moniker. We'd go out there, serve up, make sure there's meat for everybody, and then give everybody meat, and then we'd go back. And that was kind of cool. I like that over there. But from wartime, yeah, that was it. Making it through. Best memories were leaving. So getting on that plane, I remember one of my other buddies there. He was like, I would bite somebody on the neck to get on a plane right now. Just get them out of the way, like take their place. I'd kick somebody in the hip just to get on that plane.
What was the hardest part about being at war?
The hardest part about being at war? Time. The time, because like anything, you can handle anything if it's today. No matter how big the thing is, if you know it's going to be over, that's all right. We went there on a 3-month deployment. And then found out it got turned to a 6-month deployment. And it was about to be turned to a 1-year deployment. And it just kept stretching on. You'd get close to the end, and it would just stretch on and on. And mind you, I'm thankful I was only there for 6 months, because after me, it became 1-year deployments. And that's just a long time. You're bored a lot because you're just kind of going through the motions, and the days, they just get so long. And I wasn't at a forward operations. Like, honestly, I have friends that are in special forces, and they were doing horrible stuff. And I'm a friend, Chris Cupits. Love that guy. I love the whole Cupits family. He went in special forces, and he several times, he saw his buddies die. And he's doing great now. He's awesome. He's a rock star. But he was close to taking his own life because of the stuff he's seen. And he told me stories about it and how close he was. And it didn't really dawn on me. It's hard for me to really comprehend what it's like just to see so much stuff that you just want to end your own life. I've seen some bad stuff. I mean, as a EMT, I've seen kids' throats torn open. I've had to fix them and everything. And I've seen people with head wounds and stuff. And you just handle it. But to be in a point where you're so stressed out you never know if you're going to wake up. You never know, if you're coming back, if your friends are coming back, that you just, the PTSD hits, and then you just stress your whole life. You just want to end it. I was never at that point, never got to that point. I'm very thankful for that. So for me, I don't like to complain. I don't like to say, oh, what was the hardest part? Really, I mean, I got off easy and everything. And so I don't know if I really want to. It's the hardest part. I don't know. Personalities, being stuck there with people that aren't easy to work with, and you got to still be cool. I mean, yeah, fights break out, people shoving matches happen. It's war. But no, I'm thankful. I'm blessed. I got out of there. Everybody I served with got out of there. That's a happy day. That's a good day.
How do you cope with some of the destruction that you've witnessed?
It's funny you say that. It's like I never thought that I had any kind of problem whatsoever. But like when I came back, I did my time in the military. I got out. I was going to re-enlist when I was over there because I was like, all right, tax free. I'm near the term where I could re-enlist. I'm going to get this huge bonus. I'm going to get a ton of money. And then you serve at war, and you're like, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm going to survive, and I'm going to go home. I was married at the time, and that ended. Got out of the military. I went back to school. Couldn't hold down a job. Everything was a series of failures, and I took it all on me. I'm like, I can't hold anything down. I can't keep anything together. And it took me a long time to, when I say long time, I mean like a year ago, where I'm like, what is this horrible pattern? Why does everything keep happening like this? And I finally got a really good job. Thank the Lord. It's a good job. It's a good fire. I got an amazing, my wife now, I have 2 small children. And I'm like, literally, I'm on my knees. I get on my knees and I pray for thanks for where it's at. I started really thinking about it. Like, what happened? Why have I not been able to hold things together? I couldn't stay in a major in college. I kept transferring. I kept trying to figure something else out. Lost my home. Lost family. My ex-wife. And I realized I'm running from everything. I'm absolutely running from everything. And that's my safety mechanism is to just get to safety, run away, get away, start over. And that's what's served me well and everything. But then I realized it about a year ago. I'm like, I am safe. And it was really weird to think about I am safe. I'm okay. And for all these years since this thing happened, it's just been in the back of my head. Get away, start over. You'll be safe over there. Just get out of here. And so I've been running until recently. And so now I'm just like, okay, I can finally stop running. And I think I'm going to be okay. And I've never gotten any counseling or anything like that. I know I got things in the back of my head from all the stuff I've seen in the military, at war, because the war sucks, but in the military itself, it's crazy. I mean, I had horrible morale at my base. There's the NCOs, the non-commissioned officers and the enlisted. I mean, it was constant like this, butting heads. They're yelling at you, they're screaming at you. They're setting you up for failure. It was real bad. A lot of people, didn't do well there, and I made it through and I got out. But have a job where people are just swearing and screaming at you for 4 years and you can't leave. You go to jail if you leave. So it's you just sit there and you take it. So I think when I got out, I just started running from everything because I could run. But now I'm like, wow, the Lord has said, you know what? I have you. You're going to be okay. Go forward now. Yeah.
Are you still close to any of the friends that you made?
Gosh, no. Part of the whole running thing, I haven't kept in touch with anybody whatsoever. I got a job down south in Burbank, in the Burbank Airport Fire Department, and Airman Hardy came down. He got a job there after me, and then that was the closest I've been in contact with anybody. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Hardy and everything. So he got on there, and I shattered my leg while I was down there, so I couldn't be a firefighter anymore. So I had to redo everything. But no, I'm curious. I'm really, really curious. Sergeant Leseski. I'd like to find Sergeant Leseski, James Leseski. Huffmeyer, Joshua Huffmeyer. He was one of my best friends going through there. Airman Romano. He was a cool guy. Saul Hargy. Yeah, Sergeant Speakman. That'd be cool to see what happened to him. But no. I have gone back on base a couple times. Somehow. Nobody ever checks my veterans card. So I have a veterans card, which looks ridiculous. Got me long hair and everything. I'm like hair down to here and stuff. And veterans card, I'll just go on. They're like, oh, you can go to MPF, which is the hospital. So you go to the hospital, and then I just turn left. Everything, instead of going to the hospital, I go back and I'll cruise the base and everything. Like, oh, my old fire station. I haven't done that for a while, but I was able to do that for a long time after getting out. And you're like, well, I can't believe nobody ever looked. Turn right or turn left. No, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm going to the base. So, yeah, I haven't kept in contact with anybody. I'm curious, though. I'd like to see him.
Do you remember where you were when the war ended?
I guess sitting right in this chair, I guess, because it's still going.
Yeah.
I saw that question on there this morning, and I looked at it. I do have a hard time with that question. It's so freaking political at this point in time, to everybody's detriment, to politicians' detriment, to our allies' detriment, to our soldiers, sailors. I don't know. I don't know how to end it. How do you tell them, hey, we don't want to have any part of this? I don't even know all the details. I don't know why they don't want us alive. I don't know why we're at where we're at. And there's probably stuff that I don't know that people know that, hey, this is why we're doing it. And there's probably a darn good reason. I hope. Pray it is. I don't know. I mean, I was talking with my wife. I'm like, how do you end this war? And I'll call it a war. I mean, as long as they're shooting us, we're shooting them. It's a war. I don't know. How do you go into a mosque and, say, hey, we're going to blow this place up because there's a weapon cache here? Or, hey, no, this place is clear. How do you take out a city where, insurgents are hiding in there behind children and shooting your guys out of the sky? I don't know. How will it end? Ultimately, it escalates. There's lulls. There's definitely lulls where people think it's okay. I think in the city of Davis here, we understand truly what it means to be a bubble. When you look at it, we're Davis. I've lived in a lot of places. I've never lived anywhere near as nice, as safe as Davis, where my kids and I can go walking down any street at night, basically any street, and just be okay. That safety, some of us might take for granted. Understand it that you go to other countries and they just see the color of your skin and that's your last day. And you hear, for what politically correct reason, now you hear Allah Akbar a lot, and horrible tragedy following it. When you say God is great, and then you kill a bunch of school children, yeah, he's still great, but your actions are not. And so I think we have ideologies of ours and our ethos which come in direct conflict with those that would do us harm. And when I signed my oath, it was to protect America and its interests against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Terror. I mean, that's the name of the game. Terror. To instill terror upon your enemies. Now, I don't think they call themselves terrorists. By no means. They consider themselves righteous. But our definition of righteousness distinctly contradicts that. So how do you have diplomacy with someone whose ideologies are in direct contradiction with your own? And how do you end that? I believe there's at least a 33% chance that it will end with great devastation. I think it will escalate to the point where they say, I believe Japan spoke it the best after they entered the war, and they said, we have awoken the sleeping giant when they attacked America. And that ended with 2 nuclear bombs, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And nobody likes to say it out loud. That perhaps, I mean, a lot of people like to pop off and say that, all right, just nuke them, make them glow, turn into a parking lot. You got to kill children to do that. A lot of children that have no skin in the game. But, as in Normandy, in D-Day, you save a whole lot of our lives if you take out a lot of theirs. That's a tough call. That's a real tough decision. You will go down in infamy if you do that. They'll look at the numbers game. You want to play the numbers game, that's all you can do. So I think it will get worse before it gets better. And then after it gets better, it might get worse again to the point where horrible tragedy happens upon all of us floating on this rock.
Would you recommend enlisting, and what is advice that you have for young people who do want to enlist?
That's a tough one. If you're a screw up, I recommend it. I had nothing going for me. Long hair rocker, no discipline, C- student, barely made 2.1 out of high school. I didn't know anything. I didn't have any support back home. Also, if you have no support, your parents really aren't in the picture. It served me well. I have nothing but accolades really to say about what the Air Force did for me. They gave me training. They made me really good at my job. I went to college afterwards, aced my classes, got a really good hard science degree in geology. If you don't know what to do and you don't have anything that will work and you have no plans, I highly recommend it. I was a different person before I went in and when I got out, and I understand, the meaning of life a little better and its value a whole lot better. So I'm quite happy with what I got out of it, and I do recommend it to people. It's not for everybody. There's some people that do not like authority. That's not the place to go. If you can't handle authority, you will break, and it will be pretty miserable. But I always understood, hey, life is how it is. Life is tough. Somebody's in charge. They want to give me an order. Cool. I respect the chain of command and their authority. And so that was cool. I got a ton of money for college. I was really poor, kind of homeless deal. And so when I got out, I got the GI Bill. And I think that totally helped me. I'm out of college with no debt. I don't owe a single penny because of 90% of the GI Bill, and then my working a little bit extra on top of that. That's huge. So I see people coming out of school now, and they got $25,000, $30,000 in debt, and you got to start your life, and you owe $20,000, $30,000. That's stressful. So that helped out a lot. There's a lot of benefits to being in the military. There's a whole lot, especially when you get out. So I do recommend it. A lot of people won't. Yeah, you could get killed. You can get killed on the way home today. Any one of you could be driving home and somebody careens into you. Yeah, chances are a little higher if you're deployed to war. But death comes for us all. Like that. You can't be at the time. We had to understand that. That we're all going to die. It's you do your best to choose how. So I do recommend it. And when I say that, I have to think, do I recommend that for my son? Because it's not fair for me to recommend it for you or other people who don't directly contact me, but for my little boy, Xavier or Roman, there's a huge chance of going. I went in, my dad went in, my grandpa went in, my great-grandfather went in all the way up. There's a huge chance he might go in. It's very stressful, but I trust our military, and I trust our leaders. I may not agree with them all the time. I don't agree with my boss all the time, but I trust them. And so, I would recommend it for my son. I would be stressed out and crazy sad and worried, but I'm like that for all our soldiers over there right now. And that being said, I would like to say that I think there should be some more respect from our administration for them over there for their losses. What they do when you lose your family and you leave your family and you lose your life, it should be sacred. Because they sacrificed and said, you know what? My life is not as important as this country. I want my children to grow up where somebody's not going to drive a car into their coffee shop and blow them up. I want that so much I will die to make sure that doesn't happen. And they do. They go out there and they lay it all on the line. And I think that should be our most sacred holiday because they said, you know what? Everything I have is for this country and for our children. Yeah.
Do the awards that you've received affect how people look at you?
Sometimes. I got my sharpshooter ribbon. So, I think it was 100 yards, 37 out of 40 headshots. So, I always thought that's the coolest one. I got an oak leaf cluster and everything. I served with distinction at a forward operating base. My coolest award that I don't know if it's a ribbon, it's certified somewhere. Sorry, I got sniffling on that last one. Somewhere in my belongings, I don't know where it's at. It's packed up somewhere. I I have a certification where I was shaking the hands of the ambassador from Bahrain to America, and I directly increased relationships between America and its allies. We had a big fire at one of their locations, the Bahraini Fire Department caught on fire. Pretty funny. And I was operating the water tender. I was first on scene. It actually notified our department that it was on fire. We pulled out all of their firemen and saved their building. And so I got to, go down to the embassy, shake hands and everything, and had this award ceremony going on. And that was really cool. All the other stuff, honestly, there's somebody in some building saying, he did this from this time, he gets this ribbon. He did this from this time, he did this. Somebody put me up for some, oak leaf cluster for some of my actions I did over there. That wasn't me. I mean, I did the job, but somebody, notified, me that, you deserve this, you should get this. And I have a DD-214. It's our paperwork. It has all of our accomplishments and, everything we've done. And I'm like, wow, I did all that. I'm like, that's crazy, 4.5 years. And so I got a bunch and everything. And some of it helps, I guess, for disability ratings and stuff like that, or benefits that you get after the military. They look at this, oh, you get all these special ones. The one you don't want is the Purple Heart. Honestly, hats off to everybody who earned that Purple Heart, because that's one you don't want to get. That's where you got injured for that one, severely injured. What's supposed to be. So if you get if you get a poke with a pencil and you're in the office and you get a Purple Heart for that, you should be ashamed. There are some people that try their best to get a Purple Heart through other ways, like, oh, it was a stationary accident, and it still can. I tripped and fell in the office, and I got a Purple Heart. That's ridiculous. They should be ashamed of themselves. You got the same person who just had their arm blown off, or they lost their leg through a IED. That person gets a Purple Heart. You say it's the same thing. It's ridiculous. So no, all of them. I'm happy I got them. I'm thankful for the people that put in the paperwork for me because they said I deserved it, or the people in the MPF, the processing unit, that said, okay, based on what you did and your actions, you deserve these awards. I'm thankful. I'm always thankful. A lot of people say, thank you for your service. And people just did that to me recently. I got my house moved by some professional movers, and they asked me about it. I said, I was in the military. And they thanked me for my service. I get that a lot. And, thank you for your service. It's weird to me to have people say, thank you for your service. And I get that. I'm always very polite, very welcome. I was happy to serve. And I'm very serious. I'm glad I served. I'm glad that in some way this country is a little better because I dedicated 4.5 years to make sure that, this country continues on. But that service, they paid me for it. I got benefits for it. I think it wasn't like a selfless sacrifice. Afterwards, I served in Russia as a volunteer, and I served overseas a couple places, and I've been a youth leader ever since I got back, because you have to serve. I have to do something. Nobody ever says thank you for being a youth leader. Nobody ever says thank you for going and building a camp in Russia for teens and everything. But that was so much more meaningful, and it was no bloodshed, and it was just out of love for someone else. There was nobody combating love. So and it was just, those are some of my best services and everything. And everyone says, thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. And I'm always thankful. But in my heart, it's always, it's the stuff you do where you don't get anything for it. That's where I thank people for that. Thank you for volunteering and giving your time, your resource, and your abilities for free. And so that's for me. And that's a personal thing. Like all the other thank you to every service member who's done everything. For me, it's always been weird because I got paid for it. And people said thank you. I'm like, well, I get a paycheck. So.
Is there some part about your reception back into the community that you were happy with?
That I was happy with?
Yes.
Oh, back in the community. I didn't tell anybody I was coming back. I kept that secret. The word was that we were going to get extended for a year. Back. So I didn't tell anybody. I kept a big secret that nobody knew. Not my family, my wife at the time, nobody. So, and I wasn't 100% sure I was coming back, but we were fairly certain. So we came back and we got to San Francisco. And by the way, it was just so good to be home and everything. We had to get back to base, and we didn't really have a way. There was nobody was coming to pick us up. And we were given a certain amount of money for taxis and stuff like that to taxi in from San Francisco to Travis. We realized, though, it'd be cheaper if we pulled our money from the taxis and got a limo. So we're sitting there, me, Sergeant Leseski, and our crew that shipped out. We all get all of our bags, our military bags. They're about like this big, this wide, of just giant Army green bags. All of our bunker gear, our fire gear, our chemical gear, and all of our stuff and belongings. This limo pulls up, and there's a bunch of us, people just like so happy to be back in the country. And at the time, I mean, he was just like so thankful to even like, give us a lift back in. So this limo comes in, we're just throwing bags into this limo. And we're all in it, just like everybody's talking English and everything. We're like, oh, it's so nice and everything. We understand all the signs and everything. And like, oh, we're back in America. And I'll never forget driving over the Golden Gate Bridge out of San Francisco and coming back and just like looking up from our limo. Everything, as the guys, all of us just made it through our 6-month tour at war, and we all made it. And we're coming back, and we pull it into Travis into our Fire Station 1. A limo pulls up. There's a serpentine. Everybody's all still crazy. Like, here's the limo. We're just unloading bags and everything, and everybody's looking at us like, what have you done? Why did you get a limo? And then I called my parents and everything. I let them know, hey, I'm home. And they're in San Jose, and they drove up like a couple days later, and they celebrated. We all celebrated and everything. I kept it a surprise to the very last minute, and I said, I made it. I'm here. And that was fun. That was a blast. It was so good to make it.
How has serving in war impacted you as an individual?
It makes you tough. Right now, I've had a boss. Well, I'll say right now. In my past, I've had a boss. That boss can be very angry, very upset, and yell at you and treat you like like you're a kid and stuff, and scold you and berate you. And I'm just like, yeah, it's not that tough. I've been in a war. I've had people say like, oh, can you do this and everything? Can you make it as I was the president of the geology club while I was going to college, and they're like, it's really tough. Can you do it? I was like, I literally fought in a war. I think I can handle being, an officer in the club. I think it's going to be okay. Most recently, that's great. Last Saturday, my car broke down as I was driving it from the Safeway over here, where the Dos Coyotes is, over the overpass. I was like chugging up, and my alternator went out. And all the lights go out, radio goes out, and everything. And I'm like, go. I'm like, why? I'm sitting there, I'm like in the bike lane, my hazards on. Hopefully they're still on. I don't know. My battery's out, my alternator's out. So I'm sitting there, like cars are going around me, and I'm like, God, I need some help here. It'll be okay. And the guy's answering me, he's like, honestly, you've been through worse. I think you're going to be okay with a dead car. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. I have been through worse. It's going to be okay. So like, it's like this bar. Like, there's tough times in your life that define who you are by how you react to it. I'm going to try to say this without getting emotional. The most fervent I've ever been a believer in God is in times of great tragedy. The higher the tragedy and higher the stress, the more I'm on my knees begging for help. And that has helped me a great deal. My son was born 2 months premature. Just came one day. And it was terrifying. Terrifying. My wife's life and his life were now on the line. They could die any minute. And so I'm flying to the hospital. I got my other son in the seat. Nobody's ready. Nobody saw this coming. 2 months early. And you're flying down the road, going as fast as you can safely go. And you're sitting there praying. And like all those memories of all the stuff that happens in the military, it kind of set you up for this. Like, hey, you've handled it. You've made it. When it's game time, it's game time. When life's on the line, when I'm in the war, it's game time. It's game time. When you can be funny and crack jokes and mess with people and have a good time. But when lives are on the line, you be serious and you for me, be a man, do your job, get through it. And so I think that's how the war impacted me, and how serving in general impacted me. Because like I could have worked at GameStop throughout that whole time, and still had long hair, rocker, have no respect for other people, understand of this nation and how it operates. And I don't think I'd be able to handle the hard times in life that I can now, because I've seen, not the worst of humanity, but I've seen some bad stuff. I've seen blood, guts, and goriness. I had my hands, wrist deep in people trying to pull them back. And I think once you go through that, like, it says, okay, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. You've done this before. It's been worse. You're going to be okay. And then sometimes you freak out. And we're all human. We freak out. Like when my sons, they told me, he's coming. And I freaked out a little bit. I'm sitting there crying, holding my other son and stuff because, we should be human. That should affect us. When it doesn't affect us, that's when it's scary. When you close up. And I never got that bad in the military where you close up. But it made it so that way, no matter how hard the stress got, I know I can handle it. And the military made sure that. When they break you down, they say, they break you down to build you back up. It's kind of true. They took away a lot of who Chris was and put in there who Chris could be. And I was really thankful for that.
Do you think that war, with all of its challenges, can be beneficial?
I think there's a lot of evidence that it is beneficial if you are on the winning side of war. Can war be beneficial with all of its challenges? War, how do I say that? It's almost one of those things you have to get like philosophical on. We are a warring people. We are fighting constantly for resources in space. And space is sometimes a resource in itself. We've just divided this planet and its boundaries to territories owned by individual organizations such as governments, peoples, or warlords, whatever have you. And for some reason, we don't get along. We just don't. Some of it you can say is religious in nature. Some of it you can say is political in nature. Some can just downright be two angry groups that fight each other. I would love the utopian idea of everybody working together, everybody living together, everybody being able to have a family, kids, dog, nice home, not having to worry anything, being able to enjoy yourself. That's a luxury we get in America. Not even all of us, but mostly in America. And a lot of that is because of the wars that have happened before and how we've been able to separate ourselves and be victorious in those wars. And our lifestyle and how we enjoy it. It's not a common theme throughout the world. Like right now, I look at some of the students, and individuals and women in this room, and you wouldn't be able to wear these clothes without being killed in other parts of the world. And I think it's because of our lifestyle and our values and our culture that we get to have that. And I'm so thankful for that. But if we did not have war and we simply said we surrender, we give up, do as you will, we're not going to fight you, I think that would be a detriment. And I think our freedoms are worth it. And I think a lot of our service members who paid the ultimate price think it's worth it as well. That way you can go to school and be a doctor, a lawyer, physicist, anything you want. There is no limit because of how we set up this country. Yes, absolutely, there's social and economic barriers, and we try our best to even the playing field. But war in itself has been the ultimate, no, we will not tolerate you coming in and changing our country. We will not tolerate our children being blown up because you disagree with our lifestyle. So it's unfortunate, but it is necessary. So there are benefits to it.
Is there anything that we did not ask you that you think is important for us to know?
Probably a whole lot of stuff you didn't ask me that's important to know. I doubt any 1 hour can sum up the military, its value, its importance, and its effect on its service members. Real life is rarely experienced sitting inside any one building. That's when you travel and when you see and experience other people, understand their beliefs, and understand peace, that maybe things happen for the benefit of everybody. The war is the war. The war in itself in the military, like I said, they're unfortunate but necessary. They are savage and beautiful. There is such science, such devastation, such tranquility in what I've seen. I've been awed by the C-5 Galaxies flying overhead. I've been wowed by our stealth bombers I've seen. One thing that I think is really important is that the people that join. Oftentimes it is the poor people, the vast majority, not all of them, but people that don't have much. I mean, if you're doing really well, you've got a couple 100,000 in the bank account, you're probably not going to, I think, besides Pat Tillman, God bless his soul, think, I'm going to go serve. I'm going to put my life on the line. It typically doesn't happen. Racism, I think, is a horrible, horrible thing. And to look at somebody based on their outward appearance and judge them and their character without giving the benefit of the doubt or understanding who they are as a person is just ridiculous. And in the military, my brothers and sisters in the fire department were all walks of life from every part of the country, every creed, every nationality, and I served with them. And they're the coolest people ever. And I think that's one of the big things you get in the military is you understand that racism is stupid. It's ridiculous. It is an empty, hollow thing that serves no purpose other than fear and fear-mongering in itself. So I'm very thankful for that. I've known people that were racist and everything, and I've heard the bigotry views and stuff. And I'm like, this very morning, I was sitting with my son, and he wanted to see a violin video. And it was, very large African-American man, dreadlocks all out, nose ring, and he pulls up this aquamarine violin and plays this beautiful song. And I'm thinking, like, who would ever be racist against him just because he's black? Who you don't know him. He plays this beautiful music that my son gets to see. And so I think one thing about the military is the fact that it's so interracial, and it's just everybody working together.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Do you guys have any questions? Good.